The first Bible verse I want to share with you is Psalms 139:13. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I'm going to share about my childhood, and it's tragic, but it is really important for me to remember that from the moment I was conceived, God had me. He had me in his hands from moment one. He knew what my life would be. He knew the struggles I would face, but he never let me go because he created me and he formed me.
Amen.
My parents divorced when I was 2 years old. My dad remarried when I was just 4. And my stepmother was anything but loving and nurturing, and so I had an absent father. My mom remarried when I was 7, and on the outside, my stepdad looked like a really great guy, but on the inside, he was an alcoholic, and he was an abusive, mean, angry, violent alcoholic. From the time I was 7 years old until I was 12 years old, I suffered physical, verbal, emotional abuse at the hands of my stepfather. And at the hands of another family member, I suffered sexual abuse. So from the time I was 7 until I was 12, I learned lessons such as hold in your emotions for self-preservation. My stepdad used food for control and abuse, and so I became very food motivated at a very young age. And I learned to use food to support my emotions and for comfort. And I also learned to feel a lot of guilt and shame around food because I became very food motivated. From 12 years old, so early teens, all through high school. When I graduated high school, I was over 200 pounds in size 18, living with lots and lots of guilt and shame because of food and my relationship with food. I used food for every single emotion. I got married really young. And ignored every red flag on the playing field when I got married. I just wanted somebody to want me, and I wanted kids. So we were only married just a couple of months when I got pregnant, and all of those red flags started getting thrown again. And I found out real quickly that my ex-husband was addicted to porn. I was not only unwanted, but I was unloved and was treated very poorly and terribly. When him and I separated in 2005, until 2013, Sydney and I suffered emotional abuse, verbal abuse, and I lived in fear for my life and Sydney's life. And we were in and out of courts, legal battles, just an absolute nightmare at the end of my ex-husband. When him and I separated, I weighed almost 300 pounds and was at 250 pounds when Don and I got married in 2013. And still my relationship with food was absolutely terrible. When Don and I met in 2005, and our love story is a really good one, and sometime I'll share that one with y'all, but when we met in 2005, Don was sober. When we got married in 2013, he was not sober. In fact, he was drunk on our wedding day. I justified marrying him because he loved me. He treated me amazingly, unlike anybody else in the world had ever treated me. He was kind to me. And even when he was drunk, he wasn't angry or mean or abusive, so I thought that it was okay. We got married in 2013. In 2016, in June of 2016, Don's only son was killed in an auto accident. And I spent the next 6 months falling to bed every night praying to God that I would not wake up and find my husband dead, because he fell really far in despair and into alcohol and pills. Somehow, we made it into 2017, and he started a new job. And from 2017 to 2020, we did okay, you know. I had an alcoholic husband, but he wasn't abusive, and we were doing okay. In 2020, I found iTown Church, and we started attending iTown Church in the summer of 2020. And God started calling me closer to him, and my desire to seek him more and build my relationship with him just kept getting stronger and stronger. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Coming into 2023, leading into January, I knew it was 21 days of prayer and fasting, and I had been asking God in December, what am I fasting, what are we doing in January? And he told me that we were going to fast all of January, and he also told me that I was going to do a study called the 40-Day Sugar Detox, where physical detox meets spiritual transformation. And so that's how January started. 21 days of prayer and fasting was prayer and fasting all of January, and doing a Bible study. I knew that God was working on me and my food struggles, trying to draw me closer to him instead of me going to food for my emotions. So coming out of that January into the spring semester, I joined the Freedom Circle, because where else should I go but to find freedom from all of those emotions that were driving me to food. And so I took the Freedom Study, and if you haven't taken it yet, I 100% recommend it. It is absolutely amazing to find the freedom to just allow God to love you. Coming out of the Freedom Study, where I went to the conference and again worked on healing those emotions and my relationship with food, I led a circle called Made to Crave, which was a study done by Lisa Turkhurst, where she talks to women about learning to crave God and turning to God with our cravings instead of unhealthy food habits. God goes before us. He sees what is coming, and he knew what was coming for me, and he spent that first 6 months of January 2023 drawing me close to him, because he knew how desperately bad I was going to need him. The entire time in January that God was drawing me to him, alcohol was drawing Don. And he had went from just drinking beer to hard liquor. And man, was he a mess, and we were a mess. In June of 23, the bottom dropped out of our marriage. Betrayal was broken into 1,000 pieces. And I really had absolutely no idea how we were going to survive. But again, God goes before you. And I had been in a small group with Jessica Pollock, and I knew about iTown Recovery. And so I convinced Dawn that we needed to give it a try, and we started coming to iTown Recovery and subsequently Stone Dry. And somehow we survived the back half of 2023. In January, Don decided he needed medical help for his addiction. But he had a lapse one weekend and had his first DUI. Again, a total God thing. As he was not harmed, nobody else was harmed, but it was the wake-up call he needed to really seek lasting change. In February of 23, I started having some abdominal pain that didn't seem right, didn't feel right. Went to my doctor at the end of February, and they found a large cyst on my left ovary, and because I was in pain, decided that I should have surgery to have the cyst removed. Totally routine, it was going to be easy in and out, no problems, no worries. All the medical professionals said I would be fine. It was just your everyday standard cyst. It wasn't the case. Surgery had to open me up. I had an overnight stay in the hospital, and when pathology came back, I was told that I had ovarian cancer. I was told that I had to see an oncologist and that I would have to go through chemotherapy. And I was like, excuse me, God, hello, hi, what in the world are you doing right now? So I saw my oncologist in April, and we scheduled surgery number 2 for the end of May. And after surgery number 2, that was a success, it removed any evidence of cancer. My diagnosis was stage 3 ovarian cancer. I was fighting for my marriage, fighting for my life, and really just super confused about what God was doing. But one thing I knew was that chemo wasn't for me. I was more scared of chemo and the poison and the damage it would do to me than I was scared of the cancer. But when you've got the doctors telling you chemo is the only option and that's what you have to do, you start to question your own beliefs inside. So I got away and spent some time with just me and God, and I said, God, what do I do? I don't know what to do. I need your help. And he said to me, Stacy, I've already given you the answer. Remember when I said in 2023, he goes before you because he knows what you need before you need it? Believe it or not, in January of 24, I had went to an herbal class, Longevity in the Immune System, where the clinical herbalist taught about using herbs and mushrooms to treat cancer. And so when I had that quiet time with God and I said, what am I supposed to do? And he said, I've already given you the answer. He knew that chemotherapy wasn't my path, and he knew what I needed. And so I have been in treatment for cancer, but it's all natural, all herbal. And I've not been sick. I haven't poisoned my body to health. And I've just continued to lean on God for his direction and his answers. But this is where my story might be a little different. This isn't necessarily a normal recovery rescue story. I still have cancer. Dawn still drinks almost daily. We're repairing our marriage. God is guiding us. God is leading us. And he's right there beside us. But we're not healed. We're still in the battle, and we're still fighting every day. But that's the courage I want to give to you. So many times we hear stories of God just fixing it, God just rescuing it, God just turning it around. But sometimes, for reasons we don't understand, our story's a little longer, and we have a different journey and a different path that we're going to take. So if you yourself are in the middle of the battle and you're really not sure what God is doing, just lean into him. Just hang on. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. I completed a 10K in September, just a couple of months after having both of those surgeries. I still am fasting for my health and for my diet. I facilitate the small group here on some Thursday nights. I led a circle last semester, and I'm going to lead one this semester called Praying Wives, because I need accountability for praying for my husband. They tell me I have cancer, but I'm not sick, right? Don's not getting drunk every night, even though he's still drinking. So we've got major improvement in that area too, and I know God's still working on him. In John 14:27, Jesus said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." Just keep putting one step in front of them, one foot in front of the other, and just keep leaning on God and trusting him to write your story. And know that it's okay. Know that it's okay that you don't have the answers and that you're not healed in this moment. He's still working it out, and you're going to be okay.
Yes.